Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are on Toothgrass Hill playing as the forces of the Greenskins against the forces of the Dawi. And for this matchup I really wanted to try the Black Orc Big Bosses in an unconventional role, and that is as, well, straight line infantry support. So we've got two of them here, and they're going to be acting as an anchor and really a support tool for the Black Orcs around them. As many of you know, probably the Brass Cleaver is an item you can get on the Black Orc Big Bosses, and one of the main reasons people run them. Except when people run Black Orc Big Bosses, most of the experiments and builds people run with these guys, they're either supporting a blob of Boar Boys, or they're trying to support some Trolls or Goblins to stick around. But instead, we got them here with the Artist Lads, the Black Orcs. And so we do have two Black Orc Big Bosses, and these guys are going to be providing that +9 melee attack aura to the nearby Black Orcs. These guys over here are actually being souped up by the Slaga Slashes on Azag as well, but the Black Orcs going up from 36 melee attack to 45 is going to make them much more potent against the Dawi. Besides that, we do have Azag up in the sky to support this beefy front line. I wanted a Lord who can kind of zone away gyrocopters because I figured those will be a nuisance, and I figured Azag is the best bet for that. Azag, of course, is a bit flimsy, but he does have some good leadership buffs, which honestly I probably shouldn't have bothered with. Slaga Slashes, which is a nice buff to melee attack. Azag's Art Armor, which grants +30 armor and 24 melee defense, which is pretty huge in an AoE, especially for Black Orcs who already have 110 armor and 26 melee defense. That's a big buff to their melee defense. It almost doubles it. Azag himself, of course, is AP. He does apply poison. He's got Foe Seeker here. The one worst part about him is that you got Lord of Death, which kind of sucks against the Dwarves. Here, I probably should have brought his Purple Sun, but instead I brought Spirit Leech and Soul Blight, figuring, we'll leech some stuff away. Besides that, for support, we got the AP Cloonies in the front. Excellent unit against the Dwarves. Spinning Loons are insanely strong against Dwarven formations. These guys apply poison. They're unbreakable. They're disruptive. They're a pain in the rear. And they got Vanguard Stock. Silver Shields. Makes them hard to shoot. They're just great. Besides that, we got some Goblins as well as Savage Orcs on this flank. Two Savage Orcs on this flank. Might seem like a weird choice, but I wanted to try them out. See how they'd perform against the Dawi backline. See how they do against Miners, Slayers, Quarrelers, that sort of thing. You don't really want these guys fighting actual Dwarven infantry. They won't do too hot there. And then some Mogres and Marauders, once again, as a little bit of poke, but also as anti-gyrocopter insurance. But of course, the main focus here is this line of Black Orcs and Black Orc Big Bosses. And this is a pretty hefty investment. This is about 6,000 gold or so worth of troops marching up, and about half my army. Now, for my opponent, he has gone with a bit of an oddball build. He does have Ungrim, who is something you don't see all that often, and Ungrim's a pretty nasty fighter, especially for how cheap he is. That said, in this situation, my opponent has made some, I think, bad choices with itemization. Deadly Onslaught as well as Red Ruin are just worthless in the current state of things because, well, weapon strength buffs don't work. So this is pre-patch or pre-beta, and so yeah, Ungrim here rocking that insane weapon strength. That isn't actually insane weapon strength, but we'll see how the Black Orc Big Bosses compared to him and how they perform against him, because obviously he's a Lord, but the Black Orc Big Bosses do have some very meaty combat stats. As you can see, with the shooped up by Azag, they're just insane, but even without him, 64 melee attack, 55 defense, compared to Ungrim's 70 and 40, they've got way more melee defense. They're much beefier than he is. In the meantime, besides that, we do have front line of Longbeards, including the Grumbling Guard, and as the main sort of line for the Dawi. These guys are going to be annoying to crack. Black Orcs do have kind of suboptimal melee attack, and even with this help from the Black Orc Big Bosses, they're still going to have a sub-average chance to hit these guys, though it will be much higher than normal. It's about a 33% increase in their chance to hit from what it normally is. Grumbling Guard, big threat, because of course they do have those very high stats. Norglim's Ironbreakers, as well as the Skulder Guard. Interesting choice here. You don't see these guys very often. But Skulder Guard on the flank here, providing a bit of an elite anchor and defense here. Skulder Guard, very, very potent, could potentially melt some of my squishier troops, and I definitely have to be fearful of them. Norglim's Ironbreaker is just excellent against all things Greenskin. And for the firing line, we've got some Quarrelers as well as Dredge Throwers who are going to be chipping away at my troops as we push in. Now, we're going to fast forward things a little bit here because the beginning was very, very slow. I basically just advanced on my opponent, and there's nothing else to say here, really. My opponent does stagger out his front line a little bit to meet the charge. I try to overcast the Spirit Leech here to hit the Grudge Throwers. Probably a big waste. Not probably. It was a big waste. I was thinking perhaps I could chip off a model. It's something I haven't tested before, so that's kind of a stupid decision to begin with. Usually, if you're going to use magic, make sure you've tested that it gets the results you want. Because I know Spirit Leech works on normal artillery pieces. It will generally kill an artillery model for you. Fun fact. So if you're fighting against Empire or Skaven or something like that, it does well. But against the Dawi here, it did not. Could also just be RNG. I didn't get enough hits in. I just got a little unlucky. But regardless, whatever the case may be, we don't kill a model, so that was a big waste of 11 runs of magic. In the meantime, though, we are closing the gap here. The AP Loonies, they're taking some heat, but I do see the Norgolmese Ironbreakers here in the trees, so we're immediately going to beeline for those guys, looking to set out some loons. And there we go, spinning right through the Grumbling Guard, who is going to take a little bit of heat there, and into the tightly packed ranks of Ironbreakers. Huge misplay here on my opponent's part, just kind of underestimating or not noticing the AP Loonies. Whatever the case may be, they're going to do some devastating damage, and the Dawi are just straight up not going to have a good time. The poor Ironbreakers here getting sent flying, and those poor chained up dwarves there getting spun through those ranks. And we do get some pretty devastating damage there on the opponent. As you can see here, the Ironbreakers lost about a third or 2/3 of their HP there in a single cast, which is insane when you think about it. That's a 650 gold unit, just eradicated 2/3 of a 1500 gold unit. That's nuts. In the meantime, though, we are closing in from the flanks. Savage Orcs as well as Goblins coming in. This was a big misplay. I pulled these guys back initially because they were outpacing my line and then forgot about them. The Black Orcs over here have taken some nasty fire from the Quarrelers and Grudge Throwers, which is just awful. These poor guys are not making it into combat unmolested, but the rest of the line is making it okay. The Black Orc Big Boss here disrupting the Longbeard line a little bit, and in comes the support. The rest of the Black Orcs getting those charges off. Though, unfortunately here, the Norgolmese Ironbreakers do recover a little bit and are going to engage from the flank. And this is really annoying. The blasting charges are devastating. Even against Black Orcs, they do a lot of damage. And with the Grumbling Guard here, it's going to be a tough exchange. Fortunately, Mogrebs and Marauders, though, here, pouring fire into the Norgolmese Ironbreakers. We're going to drop a Soul Blight there, debuff their armor down to a pitiful 95. Just kidding, 95 is still brutal, but, you know, better than nothing. Well, over here, we're going to consolidate our big bosses closer to this Black Orc formation here. And this is kind of not ideal because it means this big boss here isn't supporting the Black Orcs here. But I wanted to consolidate my hero squad to try to pop these Longbeards here, break them, and push through the center. Because I realized that this flank is just not going to get one. I do get a wall here, though keep in mind, once again, this is bugged, so the Black Orcs are missing out on that 25% weapon strength boost. Though they will do some more damage to the Longbeards. We're going to hit Ungrim with a Spirit Leech. I don't have much to use my magic for, really, so, you know, you make do with what you got. Over here, the Grumbling Guard also getting debuffed, hitting a little less effectively. Also getting poisoned, I believe, by some of the AP Loonies, or perhaps it's residual poison from Azak. Mogrebs Marauders, though, continuing to pour fire into the Ironbreakers, into the Skulder Guard there, helping break them a bit. And we are continuing to push forward. So the Orc Tide really doing some work. Ungrim now fighting the Black Orc big bosses, and this is a tough fight, but there are two of them. So 2 against 1, I have full confidence that the winners will be our Orky Gits over there. Unfortunately, they're getting backstabbed there a little bit by the Longbeards. They're just caked in blood. Orcish, Dwarvish, doesn't matter. We're all fighting and bleeding and dying here, so Ungrim definitely chopping down the big bosses pretty effectively. Ungrim is in much better shape. He's only winded while these guys are very tired, which is hurting them quite a lot in this engagement. But we do get a right rear charge in there with Azag, hit him with a Spirit Leech, gonna weaken him a whole bunch. Now the Black Orcs are pouring back in after having been routed. And they are able to sort of bog him down. Unfortunately, these guys here are routing once again. But we do see another cast of Loons spinning through the Quarreler lines, doing insane damage once again. And although these Black Orcs here will be routed, it does mean we managed to isolate Ungrim. And Ungrim is now going to be easy pickings here for the big bosses. And he's only tired. He definitely has that advantage going for him. But Azag is going to come in there, send him sprawling onto the ground. Wah going down. Savage Orcs roaring through the back lines now. AP Loonies here just down to 15 models, but doing their very best. More goblins swarming in. And the thing right now is that my opponent has largely run out of Longbeards. There's still a few over here. We managed to get a flank with the Savage Orcs, got on top of the Quarrelers. These Longbeards fell back. There's still this healthy unit here, but we do have more Savage Orcs pouring in. We got the Black Orcs there. And this side is completely buckled. And as we pour through, even goblins, just the 2 big bosses, are going to become a serious threat. The Savage Orcs are going to be a serious threat to these Quarrelers. And so as my opponent's front line does entirely collapse there, big bosses there diving in on the Skulder Guard and just ruining their day. We're going to start swarming in on the Quarrelers, dragging them into the muck, and my opponent is forced to concede the game. Now, I do think it was a little premature. I think he could have kept fighting and trying to recover it. My army was pretty badly battered, and he still had some missiles in the field, which is important to deal with Azag, so it's not like he didn't have the tools. But I do think the position he was in was definitely not beneficial. As you can see, if we look at the losses, they were actually a little heavier on my side. But once again, keep in mind, I've got a melee-centric army, and most of my opponent's melee was gone. Now, if I were to change this build, I think I would ditch the goblins and ditch some of the savage orcs, get some night goblins, quick hoppers in there, maybe get Purple Son of Zerus on Azag instead of a Spirit Leech, and probably swap out the last Savage Orc for more Night Goblins with Fanatics, because that 500 gold would have been much better, honestly. Getting more 8-beak loonies in there, or more loonies in there to disrupt and slaughter the Longbeards. If I had 2 Night Goblins, I could have killed the Grumbling Guard and the Norglings right away instead of only one or one of them. So that's a fact I think worth keeping in mind. So there was definitely better ways to approach this support comp-wise. But the actual core of Black Orcs and Big Bosses, I was pretty impressed with. They did well against the Longbeard front line. They hacked their way through under constant fire, essentially, because I didn't do a good job compromising my opponent's backline at all this game. So essentially, this fight was legitimately Ungrim, the 4 Longbeards, because one of them was bogged down in Savage Orcs, Grumbling Guard, and then all this missile play, except for the Scolded Guard, who were being compromised by my flank, and the Grudge Throwers. So almost my opponent's entire army was fixated on this formation, and they were doing a pretty good job. They were chewing through that front line. So despite my massive misplays, we were doing a pretty good job. But yeah, if I were to change it, if I were to revise it, I would get better support. Savage Orcs just didn't play the part I hoped they would play, and let me down a bit. For my opponent's build, my main critique is bringing Ungrim, and especially Ungrim with itemization. I think Gromby with just Flash Bomb, or Rune Lord with Rune of Wrath and Ruin, maybe Rune of Negation, would be a much better investment. Also, not a huge fan of either the Scolder Guard or Grudge Throwers. They did rack up a good amount of kills this game, largely due to my complacence and incompetence. But I think that traditionally you'd like to have a cannon. If an Orc player brings artillery, you're not going to be able to shut it down with Grudge Throwers, at least not efficiently. So you'll take quite a bit of hurt from, say, a Doom Diver or something, and it's not ideal. It's not what you want to be doing as a dwarf. So I do think that it will be good to have at least a cannon in there, if nothing else. Protogollus, well played to McAfee here. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. As usual, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, and critiques down below. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.